Jack, how are you today?
Josh, today I'm really good. Really good. Really glad that we got our first 2022-23 one out the way and done and in the oven. The XGXA, check that out if you haven't seen it. But I'm even more excited for this one, I think, Josh. What are we covering?
Well, we're going to cover, in our opinion, the 10 ways to improve FPL. And I know what you're excited about, Jack, because this is your prime FPL chat, isn't it?
I do love it.
What are FPL towers? Should they be changing or adding to this game to make it more fun, better? We should probably say that maybe they have discussed these points and throw them in the bin. But we're not going to talk about that. We want to cover them and say how it could improve this game that we love.
Oh yeah, a little anecdote from me. A few years ago, I actually had a job interview with FPL Towers here in Bristol. It was a software developer role. Didn't get it. I was rubbish. But part of the reason I did get it because I did spend most of the interview talking about this stuff instead of software stuff, about ideas to change it, crazy new things that they should be doing. And to be fair, they were receptive and they were. They were polite.
Yeah. Did they use any of the ideas? That's the
yeah. Triple captainship, all me. It was all mine. No, they didn't. They weren't. Yeah, they were interested in learning. They're very open-minded guys. They're not. They have a bit of a reputation of not changing things, but they're very relaxed and open-minded. Is what they came across. So who knows, Josh? Maybe they'll watch this video and take us up on some of these ideas.
Yeah, invite us in to FPL Towers. We'd love it.
Get us in. It's only in Bristol down the road, so
exactly.
We'll pop in for a coffee anytime you want, guys. So we've got 5 each, Josh. We're going to do 1 each. We're going to keep swapping and discussing. I think we can be brutal with each other. If it's a rubbish idea, we can shoot each other down.
Big time.
Don't want to be too polite. Some of the feedback we did get from last year was we are too nice to each other. So maybe we need to take the gloves off a little bit.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Great idea, Josh. Great idea.
Yeah.
So let's go with your first. Kick it off. What's your first idea for improving FPL?
I want BPS to be less weighted towards goals and assists, particularly. Okay. And that is because I'm tired, Jack. I am tired of forwards doing nothing all game, banging in one at the end, and if it's like 1-1, for example, so there's no clean sheet points, they're just picking up 3 BPS when actually I don't think they're necessarily the man of the match. As I attribute the 3 bonus points to being man of the match, most influential player in that game, and I'm tired of them getting all the points. So that's my pitch. What do you think?
So with bonus points, because they are meant to, like you say, they're meant to be for all the other stuff that doesn't get points awarded for, aren't they? So like for strikers, it's like if they get shots on target, stuff like that. And if they're offside, they lose points, or they miss, they lose the bonus point and things like that. So yeah, so are you saying anything that gets you actual FPL points shouldn't be considered in the bonus point calc? Or just go.
Let me compute what you're just saying. I guess
if someone gets you, so say a save or a clean sheet or a assist or a goal, they get you actual FPL points, don't they?
Yeah.
So 3 points of whatever. So you're saying anything that gets you your players' FPL points shouldn't be considered in the bonus. It should be the other subtler stuff.
Maybe not that far, but just not as heavily weighted. So I looked into the BPS, obviously, because I couldn't just say that and then be like, well, this is what I think. But so 24 points in the BPS goes towards forward scoring goals. Yeah, massive, as you'd expect. So a key pass, and for example, that's quite a big thing in the game. It's not like there are players having 15 key passes in a game. Typically, if someone's got 3, 4, 5 key passes in the game, that's huge. That's quite, you'd say they're dangerous in that game. 1 point for a key pass.
Well, that's not a lot, is it?
No. So 24 for scoring a goal, and that could be a penalty or a tap in or a deflection or something. Key pass, uno point. So, and that's just like one example. Like, so what I'm saying is maybe bring the 24 down and up the key passes a little
address
bit.
The weighting, address the weighting. I'm in favour of that because I agree with you. It's annoying when some striker bags a last minute winner. I mean, the counter argument is that last minute winner is a very important event in the game, more than just a pass or a tackle.
And they get points accordingly. They get points accordingly. I know what you mean.
That's the thing. They do get points accordingly anyway. So that's the weird thing about it.
I guess this kind of goes outside of FPL for a little bit of me as well, because Ballon d'Or winners are never kind of your non-sexy kind of goal-scoring players. They're very rarely midfielders or defenders have to do huge things to be on that. They should
judge. You're right, Josh. They should judge the Ballon d'Or based on FPL bonus points.
Exactly, but they need to fix the BPS before they. But yeah, so I'm just saying, like Kante, for example, not last, but when he was bossing it every game. How many like 3 bonus point games did he have?
I know what you mean.
A lot, because it's just the stuff that he does not translate to BPS. Like,
I'm with you. The only thing on bonus points is I have to check myself in the rage of bonus point reallocation, because it is pretty, like, when you're sweating over 1 bonus point or who's got the 1 bonus, who's got the 2 bonus. And that is what I sweat on during a game sometimes. It's like, oh, has he got the 3? Has he got the 1? And I'm like, it's 1 point. Like, whereas one of the player gets a yellow card, I'm like, it's 1 point gone. But if that was a bonus point gone, I'd be raging. So it's like, they're not that big, are they? Unless, I mean, some players, when they get the 3 every week, that is significant, I suppose. But when you're sweating over if they make it into the 1 bonus point or not, it's sort of, why am I worried a bit, And it is a lot better. It used to be the man in the stand rule, didn't it? Before they brought in the bonus point system. It used to literally be someone in FPL Towers going, I like Charlie Adam.
3 points.
Give him 3 points. So it's better than that. But I agree. Broadly, I agree. Let's get some tweaking in to rebalance. Good.
Yeah. Like it. Good. That's a good start. Over to you, Jack.
Over to me. So nice segue, actually. You mentioned Kante. So my first change would be, we've got a new category, Josh, defensive mids.
Ooh.
Okay? Defensive mids. Because as you say, I think the core goal of FPL, what it's trying to do, is to reward you, the manager, for picking the best players in football. And the 11 you pick should be the best 11 you can pick. And it should reward players like Kante and for the Fabinhos and all the defensive mids that put in the legwork, get man of the match eye test performances, but get 2-3 fancy points every week. So it's harder than you can. It's easy for me to say defensive mid's a new category because there's a lot of impact there on what the game would look like. But I think we should. And this is radical, right? But there should now be. So at the moment, you pick 5 defenders, 5 midfielders, and 3 attackers. Is that right?
Yep.
3 attackers. So I think there needs to be a sweeping recalculation of the players. And so you pick, fine with the 5 defenders. You pick 5 defenders and you pick 3 midfielders and 5 attackers. Yeah. So you essentially switch the attacking slots and the midfield slots, but suddenly fucking everyone's an attacker now, all right? So it's the Salahs are attackers, the Manés, the Sons, they're all attackers. And the midfielders are much more strictly judged, but you have to pick 3 of them. And you have to play 2 of them in your starting 11. So then there's your Hendersons, your Kantés, those deep lying mids. And I mean, it's maybe that isn't great, but there needs to be something done to recategorize, because the game has changed from 4-4-2, isn't it? And that's what FPL is currently at. My only other tangential thought on this was, and I might come into it in one of my later points, but make them, if they're not getting the points, make them cost 2.5 million. Make Kante 2.5 million or Henderson 3 million, because then I think you're lowering the price of players until they're attractive is the point of that. Is another way to counterweight the defensive mid issue. But yeah, tricky. What do you think? Radical.
I'm with you with the problem. You're throwing out a lot of different solutions. So it's
not yet.
But one of my points kind of covers this a little bit as well. So I won't go into too much, but I think you're right. Something needs to change to make those currently non-sexy players more on a par with everyone else. Because at the moment, everyone just picks like fullback, wing backs as defenders, generally, or like wide players or attacking mids across the midfield line, and then the forwards are the forwards. So you've got to bring those other players in so they play some part in the game, make it more fun, give people more options, bring more picks, like more diversify the players that are being picked and ownership and everything. So I agree with that. The problem, the solution is like there's so many different ways to do it, isn't there?
It is tricky, yeah. And I should add that if you did recategorize, a defensive mid would get 3 points for a clean sheet, say, and more points for a goal. 7 points for it. If Kante scores, you get more points than if Son scores. I mean, maybe another way would be you keep it at the 5-5-3 categorization, but within those categorizations, I mean, this gets granular now. Within them, the players themselves have different point allocation. So a Kante, he's still one of the 5 midfielders you picks, but if he scores, he gets 7 points. But if Son scores, he gets 4 points. They're still a midfielder, though. You know what I mean? Something like that. Or and you could do it for defenders. A centre back, if they score, they get, more. Or if they assist, they get more points than if Trent assists. Oh, it's tough, and you don't want to overcomplicate the game, do you? To deter. I mean, part of the beauty of the game is its simplicity. And I would also add as a counterpoint that it's quite funny and fun when a newcomer joins the game and they pick a balanced 11, don't they? They pick, I have Kante in there, 2 wingers, Henderson box to box. He's a good centre-back, I'll pick him. 2 strong goalkeepers.
Pick a left winger, pick a right winger.
Yeah. Strong bench. It's quite funny. So it's part of the learning process of it, is getting to that bit you said of picking the wingers, picking the attacking moves and all that. So yeah, interesting one. We just want defensive mids to get a thing. So yeah, maybe that needs to spend some time in the oven still, maybe, before we write the letter to FPL Towers.
Yeah.
Good. Back to you, Josh. What's your second one?
Back to me. Nice and simple one. Have one Premier League club where you're allowed 4 players.
Oof. And do you pick this at the start of the season?
The 2 ways I thought about this. You either pick at the start of the season, i.e. most likely the club you support, or maybe not, the team that you think is going to be most effective. So like this year probably would have been Liverpool, wouldn't it? Because with the starters that they've got and everything. Or later on in the year, it could have been someone like Spurs, for example. But the other point is you could have it where you just have the team can change, but at any point you're only allowed the 4. Yeah. So like it just the system allows you to have one club. It could be any club. At any point you're allowed 4 players. So at one point in the year you could have had Salah, Mane, Diaz, and Jota if you wanted to, for example.
Yeah.
What's
the benefit of this?
Just more fun, isn't it? I thought.
Is it more fun? I don't see. I mean, fine. I suppose you're right. At times, it will let you have 4 Liverpool. I mean, I'd have gone a bit wilder with this and say maybe there's a new chip that lets you have unlimited players from a given team or something
for 1 week.
For 1 week, maybe, you know. So pick this City squad when they play Norwich, that kind of thing.
That's actually quite a good one. Actually, I like that where you just literally take the team.
Take the team. It'd be quite cool as well if you could
start lineup.
Like pick the team. You pick the team, and then it literally populates your team with their starting 11.
Yeah,
So you don't even have to pick the players. You're like, right, whatever the 11 is,
that's
my team this week. That would be quite cool.
I pick City, the club chip, like City for this week against whoever they're playing, and then you just get their starting lineup.
Class. Anyway, that is very different to what you've said, though.
Very different, but I actually prefer it. I think.
Okay, we'll update that one. To that. Good. This is why conversation gets us to fun places.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, fair. Any more you want to say on that one?
Nah. That was just a fun one. That was a fun one. I thought I'd chuck
These are all fun. Yeah. Fun. My next one is, and I would like this one, is to roll transfers in perpetuity. So as we know at the moment, you roll a transfer, you get 2. You don't transfer again, you still got 2. Why is that? Where's my number 3 that I've rolled? And I like this because it would encourage more discipline. So say we all love making transfers, but if you can just hold out to get those 3 or 4 in, you could build yourself a little mini wild card if you're sensible. But the best part of it, I think, is it will bring dead players back. So if you're like, mate, you haven't changed your team for 8 weeks, you're not playing anymore. And they go, oh yeah, and they log in and they've got 2 transfers to make. If they could log in and they've got 8 to make, that would get them re-engaged. They could build another team again and suddenly they're engaged again. So I don't know what the logic is on the 2 rollers, but it would be cool, I think, if you could just keep rolling them. Yeah, that's it.
I'm not so sure about this one, Jack.
Why not? Let's go back to being agreeable.
No.
Why do you like the 2?
Not necessarily that I like the 2, but I think the dead players coming back thing, if they haven't played for ages anyway, they're going to have a wild card, probably, to just revamp their team. And I think in terms of, you're assuming anyone's going to go 3 weeks without making a transfer. Like, I don't think myself, I would never go. There's weeks where I'm like, I just need to not make a transfer this week. And then 30 minutes for the deadline, I'm making some random move, which just because I can't sit on my hands. So I feel like it's one of those things that will get implemented and then like no one will ever use it. But I think maybe
you're right.
Maybe the conspiracy thing is they want like engagement. They want you making transfers every week for the active players. They don't want you thinking, oh, you can not do anything for 3 weeks and then it's just kind of out of your head a little bit. But
I definitely take your point on it. No one would even get to the 3rd week. Definitely get your point on that one. 100%.
Yeah, just look at the number of hits we had in our mini league. You did all the stats. So like, people can't wait 1 week for a move.
I know. Good counterpoints. I'd still like to roll more, but I like the option too. But I do take your points.
What's your next? We disagreed on one thing.
That was great. Great listening. What's your next one?
Next one for me, and this kind of goes back to your just reshuffle. So I said shift the position structure and position allocation. So bit waffly, but basically what you said it in your description, but right wingers and right forwards, left wingers, left forwards, like the Salah, Mane's of the world and Mahrez's, Sterling's, they've got to be forwards. I'm sorry. Like, taking Salah as an example, very small sample size, but heat maps, he's the furthest forwards in the Liverpool team. How the hell is he a midfielder?
Weird,
so, and I think that, they need to catch up with, the new tactics of teams. That's how it is, isn't it? These kind of pronged attackers that wing from wide positions. It's like that for a lot of teams, not having that target man, and often that target man may start a little bit deeper. It's the same for Spurs. Kane's become a half a playmaker as well as a striker. So that's why I picked it. But it kind of goes back to your other point as well. So I proposed 2 keepers, 5 defenders, like you said. That doesn't need to be changed, but 4 mids and 4 forwards. But I think actually, if you're going to be drastic, like you said, and just say, or even like right mids and left mids, even if they play like conventionally a 4-4-2 or even something like that, if you chuck them in the forwards as well, then yeah, I agree. Maybe you could go 3 mids and just be like out and out central midfielders, and then go all out forwards, and everyone else is just lumped in.
Yeah, that's where it gets weird, isn't it? Because like a left winger, I mean, they're basically like, they basically don't exist now, do they? Where you play a left winger, a right winger, and 2 strikers. It just doesn't happen anymore.
But there's one point to say, maybe positions could be changed throughout the year. So maybe they're not fixed. So if the start of the year, if Salah is a right forward, but then suddenly Klopp goes, you know what, I'm switching to a 4-4-2, and he turns out he's tracking back and whatever, then maybe FPL Towers say, you know, we're changing it. But that would get controversial.
So what happens?
There'd be a lot of angry letters.
Yeah, that's wild. I don't think that would work, because if you kept him in your team, presumably you'd keep him in the position you kept him, and if you transferred him out and in. But then, does your Salah get the points of a forward, and someone who brought him in get the points of a mid? I don't know.
Good point. I didn't really think that through.
But I know there does need. We clearly both agree that something needs to shake up here, because it is every season it seems to get further and further from the truth, doesn't it? And we did have that wacky year when Aubameyang was a midfielder.
That was mad. What were they thinking?
They clearly thought, oh, we don't want to move Salah forward, but Aubameyang plays the same position, so we bring Aubameyang back. But it was just nonsense. And then Saint-Maximin's a forward. It's just, they don't know what they're doing, do they?
They don't know.
I do like the whole. So you say 5 defenders, 4 mids, 4 forwards, but then when you pick your team, can you still only pick 3 forwards? Or 3?
No, I think it's that at the moment you could pick all of your 3 forwards, couldn't you, in your team if you wanted to, if the position allowed. I think if you're switching like the really wide attackers into that forward category, you have to be able to pick the 4 then, because you're not just picking outright strikers as such.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, here's one for you, Josh. My oh no, sorry, that's my next one after. I've got another solution to this issue that I'm going to propose shortly. But my third one is to do with price changes, and it's a price change tweak. So if no one's buying or holding a player, then make them drop. So what I mean by that is, at the moment, price drops only happen if the players are sold by players. So if loads of people are shipping out Coutinho, he will likely drop. But the point of a price drop is to keep players engaged still, because they don't want their value going down. But it's also, I think the main reason for me is, when a player's price drops, it should drop until it becomes a viable buy again. So Coutinho at 10 million, probably not a viable buy, but if he drops so much that he gets down to 7 or 6, people might be thinking, oh, actually, he probably is worth a punt at that price. Just like anything, like a stock or whatever, a house, whatever, like any asset. But what the current system means is, and I remember it vividly when it happened when Man U bought Sancho, and he was Sanchez, sorry. So Man U bought Alexis Sanchez. I think he was priced at 10.5 for that season. And nobody even bought him, because it was evident from the last season he was crap. And his price didn't drop because no one had bought him. No one had bought him in the first place, so no one could sell him. But what should happen is, if no one's buying a player that isn't being held by everyone, their price should gradually drop until people start to buy him. Because what should have happened with Sanchez is he should have dropped until people are like, oh, he is playing for Man U. Oh, he's only 6 million. He could come good. Yeah, I'll buy him. Or I'll buy him as an enabler to get this other guy. So this way, players don't get completely just frozen at their price and never bought. So yeah, that's the tweak I'd make to price changes. And I think I also make it a bit more transparent. But I kind of like that it's a bit hazy, so people can't like play the market completely. Yeah, what do you think of that?
I like it from the perspective as well that again, I don't like when everyone picks the same pool of players. So this would like kind of diversify it again, wouldn't it? As players drop more and it makes you look at more players eventually rather than just the same old dudes, which is quite interesting. That I guess the things to nail on would be how quickly do they drop, and is there a limit to their drop, or do like 4 million defenders eventually become zero? Like, or
I don't know what the maths would be. Like,
yeah, they could. I mean,
by Salah, he stops Sanchez, he stops dropping. I don't know. But yeah, maybe that's. I mean, there is a limit now, isn't there? The limit now is all right. The 0.3 a week, 0.3 per game week is quite a good limit, I think, because it stops someone completely going mental. But I don't see why there should be a bottom limit to price if no one's buying the player. You know,
I like the end outcome, which is more viable players.
Yeah, because it happens, doesn't it? When a striker drops to 3.9, everyone's like, "There he is. There's our 3.9 guy.
Let's go."
Everyone's more dropping more and rising more. Then yeah, maybe it's better.
It favors the active players, and again, it gets rid of that kind of keep it simple thing. But there's more and more players now of FPL, isn't it? So maybe add that like complexity and people.
Yeah, maybe add a bit of complexity to it now. Yeah, exactly. Now there are way more active players, as you say, and it's a very simple game. So I think a bit more complexity won't. But yeah, that was my number 3. What's your number 4?
Number 4, yeah, this was a shot in the dark, I think, because it would mean that you'd have to play you'd have to set up 2 teams essentially, but a chip-free version running in parallel.
Sure. So would that be a chip-free version of your same team, just without the points from chips? Or
I think it has to be completely separate, doesn't it? I can't see. Yeah, I think it has to be completely separate, because if it's the same team and they're linked, you will make decisions based on chip strategy for the one, which don't necessarily transfer over to a non-chip game, if you know what I mean.
And if wildcards count as a chip, then you wouldn't be able to keep them the same anyway, would you?
Exactly, yeah. That's a bigger point, and yeah, it would kill that off. So just the 2, I think I liken it to just, just a simple, just get rid of everything and just bring it down to bring in your players and make simple moves.
Yeah. Would that appeal to you?
It's like hardcore mode in Halo. You get rid of the shields, you get rid of the would that appeal to me? Yeah, what? Managing one team is hard enough in it sometimes, but I think it's just a bit of fun. And I think it would have to be seen as a bit of fun, because this is the main game now, isn't it? The one with the chips and everything. And I think, as we were proposing, we just want to get it more complex. But just for a bit of fun on the side, I think is a chip-free version, just to see what it would be like to go take a step back in time and be like, remember this?
I wonder what the uptake would be. I remember they brought in one year a pro league that you paid to enter. Do you remember that? It was like a pro version of it. And they sacked it off a couple of years later, because I don't think many people took it up. But I find that, like, I was in a draft league this year that was taken quite seriously. But I just found managing 2 teams, like, fuck, this is a headache. And even doing the XG and XA teams last year, there were weeks I just forgot to do it. So it was like, it is surprisingly a headache managing 2 teams. Even though you're right, it should be simple, like you make 1 transfer a week done. But we invest so much of our brain into our one team, don't we? Almost without realizing it, I think. That managing 2, you're like, Jesus. So if I don't think I would play it if there was like, oh, here's another version that has this, or no chips, or unlimited budget, or whatever. I just think I'd be like,
you wouldn't be invested in it, would you? And I get what you're saying. It's not the time it takes to make that one transfer. It's the time it takes to make the 100 transfers you didn't make.
Exactly.
Like,
Very well put. Very well put. Very well put. But saying that, you are right. There is every year I see people moaning about the chips, saying how there's too much. Like,
name names.
Yeah. And they say, it's annoying that someone can just triple captain someone 1 week, get 80 points, and that's essentially luck.
Part of the game, isn't it?
More variance there. So yeah, I think there is a vocal minority out there that dislike the chips. I really like them personally. I think they add a tactical slant to the game where an active manager can have an edge over the non-active managers, which is what you want.
Yeah, I agree. I would still focus on this version, a chip version of the game, more so than the other one. Just thought a bit of fun, but I think what you mean. It is for a very small number of players, and then probably would still definitely be secondary to this main game. So not a big one.
Yeah, fair. I think we'd have an audience. So here's my fourth point, Josh.
Oh,
here's my solution for the midfield. It's more a solution for the fact that Salah's clearly a striker, etc., etc. And it is strikers get 5 points for a goal, midfielders get 4 points for a goal, and 4 for an assist for midfielders as well. So it's a very slight change. You're switching the point totals for strikers and midfielders for goals. At the moment, midfielders get 5 points for a goal, strikers get 4. And as a result, Salah's a way better pick than Kane because he's getting the 5 for a goal and an assist point and a clean sheet point. Kane's getting 4 for a goal and they're both getting the same 3 points for assists. But I think if you made strikers get 5 for a goal and midfielders 4, that would make strikers more attractive. And in the spirit of the game, you're rewarding the position for what they're meant to do. Like you give defenders a clean sheet, 4 points. You don't give strikers 8 points for a clean sheet. So similarly, why not reward the strikers for what they're meant to be best at doing? And midfielders upping their assist points would encourage you to look for more creative midfielders, not just the strikers in disguise, for their 5 point and dropping their goal points down. And I think just that subtle change would change the way you look at picking your team quite a lot. Because I remember there was a point last year where we just didn't want any strikers at all, did we? So I think that might be a good... If I had to pick one of my changes, I think I'd pick this to pitch to them. Because, I think that little tweak would make the difference. What do you think?
It's a different solution to the same problem, isn't it?
So you keep the positions as they are.
Yeah, it's probably the cleanest solution because we're talking about like changing the positions, the whole template of the positions, and then that would affect that who you're allowed to play and etc., and then points allocated. So it's probably the cleanest. I mean, again, though, it does. So you're keeping the categorization as they are now, even though really that's not really, because they still call them forwards, don't they? So it's, and like Salah is a forward, which kind of grinds my gears.
Maybe change it to striker, and I don't know, but whatever the wording is, like say if my proposed points thing was what it was. So midfielders have an extra point for assist and 1 less point for a goal. Strikers have 1 more point for a goal. Would that change your captaincy and team selection? I think it might do a bit.
Some weeks for sure.
Yeah. And you would favour, it would be less the set and forget Salah captain pick, I think.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, if you throw in a BPS change revamp as well,
you
got to buy her. You got to buy her.
Oh, good. Yeah. You're a tough negotiator. But you
know what I mean? Because I think if you do that and you still got the current BPS system, you're still really rewarding the same group of players massively. All you're doing is slightly shifting the focus from like one of the, you're still looking at the same players then, right? Generally speaking, like it's all you're doing is you're shifting the focus or preference from one slightly towards the other. So like we're talking about would you captain Salah over Kane or blah 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 blah. But this season, and maybe this was, it's hard to say looking back because we can't remember every game week, but there were not that many viable striker options full stop.
No.
I don't know if they would, if this change is big enough to have dragged some of the striker options to be like, actually, I'll pick him over Jota or Diaz or Kulu, for example. But then I think if you add maybe some of the other little fixes or changes that we've proposed as well, like maybe the recategorization and stuff like that, I think you need more than one. And I guess what I'm saying is it's to make an impact, it needs to be quite a big change, doesn't it? Like really.
Yeah.
But I think that's getting you halfway there. I just think it's you're basically just shifting one towards the other. So basically what you're saying is Kane becomes the number one guy now.
I suppose so, yeah.
Rather than Salah or Son. So Kane and Ronaldo
maybe give strikers 2 points for an assist. You know, maybe you make it even more of a
equalised or specialised.
You're there to score the goals. Midfielders, you're there as more the all-rounder to provide assists and goals. So you get slightly less for each.
But justice for the Kantés of the world, Jack. Justice for the Kantés.
Maybe a bit more. I mean, he's still not getting assists.
10 points for Kanté Cup.
He's still dead in this model. This one's more a solution for the strikers in disguise, the midfielders, and kind of punishing them a bit for it.
Yeah.
And lessens the importance on them. But yeah.
Yeah, I only mean that does solve that problem. So I would say, yeah, that's good. But as a part of the problem we've identified, it doesn't go far enough.
No, it doesn't solve the Kanté problem, as we call it.
11.
Good. What's your fifth and final?
Fifth one, show overall rank excluding inactive managers. So you'd come, you're not getting rid of inactive managers because, you know, you got the guys that might come back after 10 weeks and be like, I've been away, just want to change my team. Fine, they can do that. They're allowed to take sabbaticals. I'm not kicking them out. But I want to know actually what's my overall rank with the players that are actually focusing on it. So if a manager hasn't even logged in, and you're the developer here, surely you can tell me if this is possible, for like 5-6 game weeks, just have another little realized overall rank, which just takes them out of it.
Yeah, I guess the question becomes what counts as inactive, doesn't it?
Logins.
Yeah, but I mean, like, for what time period?
5 game weeks.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I guess some people would. That's where the question becomes, doesn't it? Like, what is it? 10 weeks? Is it 5 weeks? Is it 3? Is it have they made a transfer? Is it have they? You know what I mean? It's kind of that, but yeah.
I think if they're logging in, they're looking at their team. You know, that's the way I see it. Even on the app.
I like a login as being active. Yeah, I like that.
And then the 5 game weeks is because that's, you know, that's like what over less 1/8 of the season ish. Yeah,
I guess so. I guess for me, some people probably would be interested. I personally don't. I find it fascinating that non-active teams beat active teams. You know, I find that as part of the fascinating game. It's like stocks and shares. Like someone buying a passive index fund beats half the active managers out there. So it's a fascinating. The mix is fascinating. You know, it's enraging to me that someone can beat me by randomly picking a game in one team and leaving it.
That's your what if machine, though, isn't it? In a nutshell.
Yeah. So the what if machine shows that etc. What would have happened if you did nothing. And yeah, I guess I've always found that fascinating. So I don't kind of care that, I'm beating this many active managers or this many dead ones, you know. I don't discount the dead teams as inactive because they're still getting points and playing the game. I guess. But loads of people, like you say, they're like, oh, there's 9 million players, but actually there's only 2 million active managers or whatever. So, and people want to know that. So yeah, it would be good to just know the stats, wouldn't it, of what are the logins? How many teams haven't logged in?
And I know the likelihood is that out of the 9, if 7 are inactive, I know that's quite a big balance, but
could be.
Then the 7 will be at that end of the overall ranking, most likely.
Yeah,
but it would be interesting to know if like someone snuck in like the top 1,000 or something without having changed their team.
I think now and again you see on Reddit like, oh, the guy who's 500th in the world hasn't made a change since fucking da da da.
Yeah,
you do get them. You definitely do get them. With the amount of numbers of people playing, you will just get anomalies, won't you? Like that.
To be an anomaly.
But yeah, that is. I think that people would like to see that. Even maybe not even the ranking, just people would like to know
inactive numbers.
But I think it's kind of almost against the interest of FPL Tower.
Yeah, they don't want to say,
isn't it? It's like Twitter, how many bots there are. Twitter don't want to tell you how many like fake accounts there are, do they, on Facebook and stuff?
Yeah. We're not allowed to peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, if they were like, 8 million or 9 million haven't logged in since December, like FPL would be like, the sponsors would probably be like, what? So
true, yeah, that's not going to happen, is it?
I don't think it will happen. I don't think it will for that reason. But yeah, it'd be fascinating to see it. It would. It really would.
On that note, Jack, finish us off. Your final proposal.
Right, here we go then. Another quite radical one. So we all know you get another wild card in January and you have to use one by December. I'm saying let's apply that to all the chips. So every chip, free hit, wild card, triple captain, a bench boost, you get one to use before January and then you get them all again in January. So why is this interesting? I think one issue is we all just save it for we all save most of the chips for the last few game weeks. So it would force us to play a bit more interestingly and use them in the first half of the season. And casual players often play them in the first week, don't they? Or the first couple of weeks, kind of without thinking. And then it comes to those final weeks like, oh, well, I've used them already. Fuck. Like, well, I guess I'm out then. Forget it. So it would kind of help them if they played their triple captain in game week 1 and then got into the game and then realised, oh, shit, I've played it. Then come January, they're like, well, I've got my other one. I'm playing seriously now. I can use it properly. And it would just make it a bit more, the first half of the season, a bit more interesting to see people using their triple captains and bench boosts on a single game week for a change.
Yeah, I was thinking about it as you were describing it, and I like it. I like it I hadn't really thought from the perspective of, you're right, it's heavily weighted towards people saving it for like the doubles and madness, which happens in the the second part of the season.
Yeah.
So it would definitely revamp the first part. And I think the first part, with normally in a non-COVID world, like less of the doubles and blanks in the first part, isn't there? So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think it would be a bit of a free-for-all. People would use it in like more diverse weeks, wouldn't they? Like people would chuck it game week 1 or game week 5 or whatever. Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah,
I like
that's a simple one. And it's kind of weird that we have one chip that applies to and not the others. You know, we have 2 wild cards, but not 2 of the others. It's kind of
that because of the transfer window, though?
That was the idea. Yeah, for sure.
But I know what you mean. So just apply that to all.
Yeah, give us all. Yeah, why not? Good. Well, that was fun, Josh. I enjoyed that. We got some good ones there. Let us know.
Change the game.
Change the game. Let us know what you think of our crazy ideas. If you've got any other wacky ideas that you want to tell us, write a comment in the video, please.
Yeah.
I want to know.
And if you work at FPL Towers, you just feel free to steal one of these ideas as long as it happens.
Or
don't need credit. Or pay us.
Pay us 10 grand an idea. You know, it's yours. Take it.
Yeah. Cheers. Yeah, I should have started with 10 grand. I shouldn't have gone in with the 0.
Should have gone with 3. No.
Terrible negotiating.
Take it for free. But no, I'm sure they must just sit there thinking about this stuff. Like, how can they not? I'm sure there's many good reasons they haven't done any of these that we haven't thought of. But
I'm sure that
let us know in the comments if we've missed an obvious flaw with any of them, or
other proposals. Yeah,
we'd love to see them. So good. All right, here we go. Done.
Cheers, Jack. Enjoyed that. More of these, more creative ideas. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.
Bye bye.